beginning with, of course, our first always inspiring speaker, biologist or arachnologist, John Hancock. And he has always been an inspiration and an enthusiastic teller about science, about research. And every year we find out a little bit more about John and his wife Kathleen and how they've contributed towards science in the world. I didn't know until this lecture series a few years ago that John actually contributed with research and scuba diving with one of the first or largest marine reserves in the world because of his research, and it came into fruition 20, 30 years later. So former United Kingdom person, John is and his wife Kathleen have been in Canada since the year 2000. Another thing I didn't realize or did not know, their 20th book is at the publisher as we speak. We're all going to be getting copies and getting them autographed hopefully soon. This is The Spiders of Western Canada by Lone Pine. Artist, author, and inspiration. I'd like to introduce and welcome John Hancock to our speaker series. Thank you, everyone.
Right, thank you. As you know, my name is John Hancock, and I have two main passions in my life. One is Kathleen, my wife. One year I missed her out, you know. And the other one is, I'm not sure if you would understand 100%, but it's a scientific method. I find it absolutely fantastic because you make observations. You may make 2 or 3 observations, and if you think about what you see, and this is what I'm going to try and get the audience to do tonight, to think about what you see, then you can form a hypothesis. It's kind of a suggestion, and you can follow this through with experiments. You can't. One thing I like about the scientific method is that you cannot prove an absolute, never. You can have a probability of perhaps 99%, but what you have to learn is you cannot prove anything absolute. Let me give you an example. The moon is round, isn't it? But only one face is facing towards us all the time, so it could be just a flat disk. So the only way we're going to test this hypothesis is if we send people around the other side to see if it is flat or not. Do you follow what I mean by the scientific method? I know this is silly, but wasn't that long ago most people thought the earth was flat. And of course, I mean, how could it be round? You'd fall off at the other end, wouldn't you? Anyway, I'll go on with the presentation, and I've entitled it, Here Be Dragons. And we're going to go into uncharted territory. In the old Canadian maps, or any maps in the past, if very little was known about that area, it often had, Here Be Dragons. And I need to give you a number of warnings, really, because I haven't told you this, but you're all volunteers. And you're all volunteers to come with me on this expedition to look at the dragons, if you like, in this particular area. As I warned you, you're all volunteers, and we're going to enter some uncharted area equipped with an inquiring mind, I hope. And by using the scientific method, we will extend our observations into puzzles of the natural world. We're going to dive into... That's not working. Oh, we're going to dive into 2 local waters. One very attractive, one not so. Wharton Lakes is a very deep lake and has got a great deal of very varied aquatic life in it. My favourite is this nice scummy green pond just behind Walmart. Interestingly enough, the red colour is a protozoa called Euglena, and it's quite a rare species, but it was bright red this year. You're all going to be equipped with a mask that incorporates a microscope. So you're going to have two types of views. And here is one dragon. These creatures are nymphs, not larvae. And you will notice that although this is quite a young nymph, it's beginning to grow wings underwater. I want you to, it's believed that wings arose from little flaps at the sides of the body that were for respiration, and these eventually developed into wings. Unfortunately, this was a lovely film strip, but unfortunately I can't show it to you, so I'll have to start talking about what you can't see. It's a very interesting situation here, because you have a larvae that actually evolved underwater and breathes underwater. But the parent doesn't. The parent breathes atmospheric oxygen. And they differ from all other aquatic insects by having internal gears. Gills. I meant to give you another apology, because I'm getting on in ages. I have difficulty with words. That's why Kathleen is sitting here to prompt me. So we're associated with gills. But these gills are in the rectum, and it presents some interesting sidelines, really. The body pulsates like this, so it can draw water into the rectum and out again, and the gills are inside the rectum. This also has a marvellous system of jet propulsion, because it can squeeze suddenly and shoot forward away from its predators. But you think about it, you know, it's breathing through its rectum, and it's got to discharge its fecal matter through this channel. So wouldn't it pollute its lungs? Wouldn't it cause problems? But no, this creature ties up the fecal matter in a plastic bag, then shoots it out. So it doesn't have any trouble with respiration at all. One thing that I couldn't show you, because we've lost the film strip, is that one of the marvellous things that this dragon has as a larva stage is an extension arm underneath its chin, and it can shoot it out like a harpoon, like an underwater harpoon. At the end of it is two very sharp fangs for catching its prey. We're now going to microscopic mode, and we're looking for more dragons and more observations, I hope. This is, as I said, was one of my favourite study areas. It's really wonderful to get underwater in this. This actually is a storm water ponds, retaining ponds that the town built some 6-8 years ago, I think it was. And a lot of salts come into these ponds from the roads and from the car parks, etc. And this encourages the protozoa and the algae. So it's a very rich place in which to study. And as you probably know, the amoeba forms pseudopodia, which surrounds its prey. And although you can't see this happening now, I want to kind of demonstrate it. I want you to imagine the membrane of the amoeba, and as it approaches, I've got a little spider here. They won't see me, will they?
Put the spider in front of the blue, and it'll be, there you go.
Oh. So this is the prey of the amoeba, and as it starts to engulf it like this, the membrane of the amoeba will completely surround it, and then it will pinch off. So now when it moves into the inside of the amoeba, you not only got the membrane of the animal itself, say an algae, but it also got a second membrane around it, which belongs to the amoeba. And this is important. I want you to bear this in mind. That's what I've just done. I wish you could see this, because this is a fantastic film strip in which one protozoa is engulfing another. And you can't really see it here, but you can see the double membrane. And this is leading up to a very interesting hypothesis that now has been advanced to a theory which is quite spectacular. Here we have one of the slipper animals, Euglena, in which it's swallowed some algae, but hasn't eaten them. They're living freely inside the animal. And if it's in short supply of food, it can rely on the algae's production of sugar to maintain its life. Here again, you can't really see what's going on unless you had the movie film strip. But you can see a red spot. And don't forget that this is a single cell organism. And the red spot is the start, if you like, of the development of an eye. Here in the top middle picture, you'll see what we call is a chloroplast. And this, we believe, was a free-living bacteria. And is so successful as symbiosis relationship with plants that all plants are green, because this uses a green pigment to trap sunlight. But remember, I'm telling you to observe the double membrane. Well, here, unlike membranes in the lower left-hand corner, which is one of our cells, all cells only have one membrane. But the chloroplasts have two membranes. So it seems to suggest that it's a symbiotic relationship with the cell. Let me go to the one on the left, the top left. This is a mitochondria. And this is, again, was a free-living bacteria, and is found in almost all cells in your body. So many trillions of them. And this is the powerhouse of our cells. We couldn't live without them. Yet it was a free-living bacteria at one time, many, many billions of years ago. And this also has two membranes that it's developed. And to clinch the hypothesis into a working theory, both of these have their own genetic information. They have their own DNA. A lot of it's been transferred to the nucleus of the host cell, but it is truly a symbiotic creature that lives in every cell in our body. Remember, I pointed out the red pigment cells. Well, let me give you an illustration to try and get over my point here. We have a sun that keeps our Earth and our life alive. But if you wanted to learn the life history of a sun, you couldn't. You just don't live long enough. But what you can do is scan the whole galaxy, the whole universe, and you will see suns in different stages of development. Well, this is what I'm trying to show you here, is the different stages of the development of an eye. Because it was said at one time that you cannot have an eye just form. But we believe that this is not so. The first top picture on the left-hand side just shows you some pigment cells that are in the skin. And the animal uses these to either navigate towards the light or away from the light. Doesn't do anything else. Secondly, we have the middle picture at the top, we have a flatworm. And this is the membrane is sinking inwards into a cup. And if you look at the bottom left-hand corner of all these pictures, you'll see a little container, and what they suggest that this animal can actually see. It's just something fuzzy. As you get on a bit further, we come to the nautilus. I don't know if you remember these. The most beautiful marine creature. And this now has a pinhole camera. And it can see detail quite well, but seawater just flows into the eye. Next to the bottom left, we have a mollusk, like a clam and things like this, where the eye actually is formed over, and now a lens is beginning to form. Secondly, the last one is the lens is really formed, and there's ability to adjust the lens. I want you to bear in mind about the working of these eyes, because I remember a good friend of mine saying, "John, do you know the human body is perfect?" Well, I don't believe it. For instance, there's some good illustration here. Our eye, if you like, in cross-section on the right-hand diagram, the nerve cells, the light hits the nerve cells first, then it hits the pigment. And if you think about it logically, this is silly. But with an octopus in the far corner, the light hits the pigments first, and then the information they receive is carried to the brain, straightforward. So whatever happened in our evolution in which the eye was reversed? This was a wonderful slide. I'm sorry you're going to miss this, but this is a Hydra. I'm sure you all know about this. But the tentacles are very, very deadly. They're embedded in each tentacle is absolutely thousands and thousands of nematocysts. These are stinging cells. I don't know if you've been to the sea and poked your finger in a sea anemone. Have you ever tried it? Because you find it's ever so sticky. Now take your finger out the sea anemone and put it under a microscope. You'll see that you've got hundreds of harpoons sticking in your skin. Hundreds. And I'll illustrate this a bit better. This is the harpoon complex of every nematocyst on that tentacle. But the fantastic thing about this is that the red colour is the cell. Imagine the cell. But the actually harpoon itself is secreted. Now, my fingernail is secreted. My hair is secreted. How can it produce something like that? And the only way you can understand it is if I had a glove with the fingers extended and I push one finger into the palm, and I took the wrist side of the glove and blew, it would suddenly extend outwards, wouldn't it? This is what's happening here when a creature hits the trigger. you can see the trigger on the left-hand side. And then the harpoon and its teeth enter the prey's body and paralyze it almost immediately. It's pity again that we haven't got the motion pictures, because it would show you exactly that. One of my favourite topics, as you know, I like talking about is sex. It's because of spiders, you know. But there is a great mystery. We all know that two parents produce half their genes to produce an offspring, and this works extremely well with a changing environment. But think about asexual reproduction. Why can't Kathleen just bud off another child?
God help us.
Wouldn't it be so much easier than the traditional way, Kathleen?
Oh yeah, probably. How would you know?
So it really is a great mystery, because there is a very small animal, and it is very, very small, but this is a multicellular animal. It's got an eye spot, one single eye spot, as you can see, quite a large stomach. It's got a brain. It's got all the necessary things to live, but it's asexual. And it's been asexual for something like 400 million years. And the normal asexual organisms should have a very high rate of extinction because of the selecting aspect to their offspring. And there shouldn't be any many species either. You take bacteria, they're not really a species because they reproduce asexually. Though some of them go against that rule. But in this case, this particular rotifer has produced 18 genera and 360 different species. This must be only by mutation, in my opinion. And for, I said 400 million years, didn't I? 40 million years, I beg your pardon. And no males have ever been found at all. And it's quite a mystery that this animal has survived so long. This is another nice film clip in which you can see a young one inside, and you can even see the red eye of this creature. Next, I want to come to a very unusual and strange creature. This creature, unlike anyone here, has been out in space. This is called the water bear. And it's so beautiful. I mean, it's ever so tiny, but it's so beautiful that I've always wanted to keep it as a pet. And it can survive enormous... I'll read it out to you. It's a great survivor and has been out in space. It was sent up to the space laboratory. And they put it out in space. And it survived minus 272 degrees centigrade. It can survive 150 degrees centigrade. And it has been found in the tops of mountains, particularly in the Rocky Mountains, and down to 600 meters in the sea. It's a very, very ancient animal. It doesn't seem anything can kill it. It has been stored in a laboratory for 10 years and then woken up. As I say, it's a very ancient group, and they consider it to be 530 million years that they can prove of its existence. And here again, this does have a sexual reproduction at times, and there's 1,500 species are known so far. Again, I wish you could see this. This is a colony of single-cell organisms, and they're absolutely fantastic. You wouldn't believe that one single cell could do this, but it's got a ring of hairs, if you like to call them, around the mouth, and it creates enormous vortex in the water, which draws all the food into its body. But one of the amazing things, can you see the stalk, the spiral stalk? Remember that this is a single cell animal. There's no muscles. I mean, I've got a muscle, I can move my arm back and forward, but that hasn't. But it uses just a protein that reacts with calcium, and it can move so fast, it's faster than our own muscle reactions. I didn't touch that, it went by itself. One of my most favourite animals is the bryozoa, and again, I wish I could show you this in more detail. But again, it forms a vortex around its mouth, which draws food in. In the very top right-hand corner is a resting egg, and this, like the water bear, can survive for very, very long periods. This is a good illustration, really, that this animal is all around us here in Pincher Creek. In the creek itself, in the ponds, in the lakes, in the salt ponds. It's very, very common. Even my pond water from the garden is heavily laden with colonies of this animal. It's very attractive to see. I wanted to talk about the plankton, particularly in Waterton, in the deep lakes. And this was a very good film strip by David Attenborough. And yeah, it was really magnificent. And this little creature, Cyclops, is obviously, it's only got one eye, but it lives in fairly deep water. But during the night, it rises to the surface to feed, and during the day, it goes down. But I can't show you, unfortunately, but there is a predator, a very small animal. This animal's about this. It's very tiny, but it's got enormous eyes for seeking out these copepods in the dark. And this particular species has got a way of avoiding to be caught. It can inject from its anus a blue cloud, and the cloud drifts away and suddenly explodes. Bang! And the predator goes after the bang or the blue cloud, and the copepod escapes. It keeps changing without me doing anything. Oh, it's timed. Yeah. It's timed. This is another very attractive animal to me, the water flea. You can see the eggs forming in the body, and in the middle picture you can see a very small male, and so this is mainly asexual all its life, but during the winter or approaching the winter, it is sexual reproduction that occurs. And this was going to show you the birth of some young ones.
How do you say that one?
What's that?
The one on the previous slide. Daphnia.
Daphnia.
Yeah. Okay.
Water flea.
Okay.
Why'd you ask?
Because it just went by too fast for me to read it. I thought that's what I read, and then I couldn't.
Oh, sorry.
No worries.
Next, we're going to talk about a living fossil, and this is very common around here, particularly in Waterton and the ponds up near Brocket. They're ponds which dry up in the summer and leave the salt behind. So you've got a marined, a brine pond. In fact, I'll tell you the big pond just before Fort McLeod. I don't know if you've ever watched it. It's on the left-hand side, the north side, going into Fort McLeod. I often see avocets feeding there with their long beak going on. They're feeding on this particular animal, which is considered to be a living fossil. It's very similar to, oh, God, I've lost the word. Horseshoe crabs, and also the trilobites. It's very, very similar. They reckon it's at least 70 million years old. when I say 70 million years, they've got fossils of that age. And you can actually grow these. You could go into an aquatic aquarium shop and you get a little tube of eggs and you can grow them and they can be pets in your aquarium. And this particular species grows quite large. But there's another one you can't see, another species you can't see here, which is called the fairy shrimp. And you know, I said there's a bit of a mystery about the human eye compared with the octopus eye, that our eye is the wrong way round. But that's not the only problem, you know, is that our nervous system is completely upside down to invertebrates. So the only way we feel that it could happen, it could occur in evolution, is if our ancestors turned upside down and swam on their back. Then the nervous system would be the right way round. The eyes wouldn't be. Do you follow me? And the fairy shrimps, that again, you can buy the eggs from an aquarium shop and you can hatch them out, swim on their backs. So it's a very good illustration of what may have happened. Thank you, and ask you to get a nice shower after being in the whirlpool pond and clean up, and then we'll be ready to answer any questions.
John, I just wanted to thank you again, and if everyone would like to give John a round of applause right now.